So now the time has come to introduce the first presenter. I'm sure you will agree that Microsoft is one of the leading innovation companies in the world. So it's fantastic that a representative of this company will start this day with us. Um, we have Valentina Ion with us. She is global public transportation lead at Microsoft. Uh, Valentina always takes charge of innovation, of restructuring businesses, and those are her areas of expertise. So she will talk about newest technologies and their influence in the future for the transport sector. So please welcome the first speaker of our second day, Valentina Ion.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much for the kind invitation to the organizer of this important event. I'm Valentina. I lead public transportation industry solutions at Microsoft. And to the question why Microsoft as a transportation event, well, transportation, as all of the industries nowadays, need digital transformation. And we are a hyperscaler, but more than that, I'm sure that you are aware of all the hype generated by generative AI and the continuous investment we're making in AI technology, as well as we've done on IoT connectivity and Web 3.0 type technology. So we are providing the brain for a connected, intelligent transport, and we are fortunate to have a strong ecosystem of customers and partners, many of these in the room today, that bring innovation to life in the transportation industry every day. So I'll share for the next 20 so minutes some of the trends and the technology innovation we've seen put at use in the industry. I'll start with the trends and the challenges. I mean, it's nothing that you are not exposed every day. And yesterday I got to experience my first snow for this winter. It's the same in every city around the globe. The first snow always catches the transport infrastructure and the cities as well as the passenger by surprise. And that's because the demand for mobility in the city, it's increasing. And we see part of that trend, a lot of commuters growing in the demographics of what urban mobility means. With the high demand comes congestions, and there are impressive numbers in terms of the cost of congestions. If you see some of the numbers for Britain, Germany, and the United States, the percentages are similar across the globe. And when we calculate and look at that congestion cost, it's not only the cost on fuel and pollution, but it's also the impact it has in the prices because of impact on supply chain across the globe. And to mitigate the high demand, to alleviate the challenges and pressure on the infrastructure, investments are needed in order to modernize, refurbish, retrofit, or create new infrastructure for transportation. And you see the trillions of dollars needed in order to continue and fuel the economic development. When the investments are not there yet, we need to leverage what we have and optimize the capacity, optimize the cooperation within the ecosystem. And while the data mobility cooperation is a desiderate for many years now, we're still far from achieving that vision. And many of you active in this industry, you know that who owns the interface to the customers owns actually the ecosystem, and it's able to monetize on the data, offer new competitive services. But at the same time, the backbone of that, and I call it mobility as a platform, the ability to monitor effectively the assets, the equipment, and the people, it's as important. I know that following this session, we will be discussing about sustainability and the carbon tolling tax coming from European Union. Sustainability, it's extremely important. During the COVID, we got to experiment what it means and what's the impact when we stay at home and work remotely. And we saw the drop on carbon emission. Unfortunately, that's picking up, which calls for the transition to green to happen in an accelerated manner. And there are two sides of that story. Of course, electric, it's green, and using alternative green energy sources are extremely important, and that calls for green infrastructure, electric charging stations, to make that desiderated reality. But it goes also on a shorter term to better usage of the assets, prediction of the traffic, of the demand, and coordinating, orchestrating against multimodal means of transportation. So that's why we see the real-time data collaboration as fundamental across this extensive ecosystem that comes together to make transportation and offer transportation competitive, reliable, and safe services. And you can see the diversity of it. We need to work together. Now, what does technology has to offer here? And when I was putting this together, I was thinking, well, there's nothing dramatic that it's happening. It's probably the convergence of all these technologies, the level of maturity that we are reaching that changes paradigm in many aspects of public transportation. And in the past, we were focused on IoT and connecting the assets and offering a digital footprint of those assets in order to monitor them. The next stage was adding intelligence to it and automation. We see, therefore, artificial intelligence as being the level of maturity happening today. And with AI powered by connectivity, we go into mixed reality, industrial, multiverse. And I'll take them one by one and give a perspective on how AI and IoT and digital twins are transforming the industry. I'll start with the traffic and demand management, understanding what the demand would be, simulating the impact on different conditions from events happening in the city, unfortunately accidents out of pothole, or weather, and how would you allocate the right resources, how you do dynamically redirect traffic, and if you have spare capacity, how do you monetize on that spare capacity? And that's where we start to see cooperation between the public sector and the private sector, where if there is an infrastructure owned by the government, and usually that's still the case in many countries, thinking of not necessarily roads, but railway, for example, or ports, terminals, and authorities, that capacity can be made available to the private actors, and ultimately that generates better services for the customers, being individuals or company. There are many players here offering all those type of layers, from data to real-time insights, and the frequency of gathering information or adding additional services on top of the data fee makes the difference. And continuing on the AI for safety. And when I look at transportation, I also look at, as I mentioned, at ports and all the warehouses that connect the mobility centers and multimodal centers, to be fair. And here, connecting the equipment, ensuring the safety access and control access to these premises is extremely important, and it's also enabled by AI. And sometimes it can be from the perspective of documenting the activity, and it might have implication on insurance services, for example, because you want to see the status of the containers being moved before and after they've been moved across the ecosystem. Road safety, and I was mentioning the correlation with the traffic. Cities are more and more investing in building this oversight capacity, understanding what's happening in the city, and redirectly dynamic the assets and the traffic. And sometimes that goes hand in hand with financial incentives or penalty. And we'll hear more and more about green tax, for example. And that's one example for US. I'll mention another organization, Urban Institute. You might be familiar with them, that correlates the big trucks coming into a city by aligning with the traffic lights and creating corridors, not to put pressure on the city center, but also enabling reliable times of movement and transit for those trucks coming into the city. Multimodal and the smart cities, I mean, we see more and more of that. And one perspective, it's the mandate of answering the me here now expectations from the passengers. They want to have personalized services, reliable services relevant to the location that they are and to the location where they want to go. And there's also that perspective of there is this infrastructure, we have a capacity, is it correctly used, is it underused, overused, and how do you avoid interruption? How do you intervene before interruption happen? So it's the two sides of the coin. Vehicle to everything and machine-to-machine communication and data exchange. This is what makes possible autonomous vehicle and transportation. This is what optimizes operations in a warehouse, on a port terminal. We see retailers coming and investing in such type of services because they want to secure the first mile, last mile aspect of the transportation. We see healthcare leveraging this. If I think of Swiss Post cooperating with hospitals in Switzerland to move hearts from one hospital to another using drones. Digital twins, we see now, I would say, a third generation of digital twins. It's not only representing in a digital manner assets, but it's also programming those digital images, condition-based, and leveraging artificial intelligence, predictive maintenance in order to avoid interruption, understanding what repairs needs to where. And we see it applied on ports. We have now digital twins for trains, for airports, highways, and even in the airport and aviation industry. One immediate use case was training, so simulations for training purposes, which reduces dramatically the cost for such exercises as we've seen them in the past. Real-time fleet and asset management, that goes hand in hand, of course, with the predictive maintenance. Supply chain visibility. impact and have an oversight of the globe of the climate impact of the vegetation and across the globe. So you would understand as a shipping company, trucking company, what measures you need to take to avoid interruptions, delays. And to the predictive maintenance in the rail industry, we have good examples, as we have in US, in Canada, analyzing and to the use of drones and image capturing condition of the trucks and ordering the repair and maintenance. Connectivity, extremely important, and 5G, it's now more and more adopted on critical multimodal hubs, ports, airports being top one that come to mind, and also smart highway and roads infrastructure. And it does a number of things. It allows for updates at distance of those equipment. So yes, as much intelligence as you can bring at the edge on the device to allow autonomy, that's happening. But still, updates and additional programming at distance, it's enabled by 5G mobility capability. Automation of cargo handling and remote operation of all the assets and equipment. Understanding the status of operation and the condition of the containers and truck. And I've mentioned the connection with insurance services that might draw penalties if the conditions of integrity, humidity, temperature are not respected across the chain. And the real-time drone tracking, we see it used for the good, and I've given the example of healthcare in Switzerland, but drones are also used in smuggling and moving goods, unauthorized illicit trade across the border. So how do you cater for the one and the other scenario? Geospatial intelligence, absolutely, and when you have the assets, you want to geofence those assets, you want to monitor what's happening in the perimeter, outside the perimeter, you want to coordinate and allocate resources accordingly, and that sees multiple scenarios. I mentioned the impact of vegetation on the infrastructure, leaves in the fall, the impact it has on the speeds, and it might even cause accidents on railways, or heat waves and the impact on roads and highways. So all of this is enabled through geospatial intelligence. And gathering the data, of course, is the essential part, and combining the edge intelligence, connectivity-enabled intelligence, as well as spatial and satellites imagery will contribute to that. The industrial metaverse, so when you bring all these capabilities together, we go into mixed reality where you would immersively interact with the digital footprint of assets. I was highlighting the example of training in aviation with AirSim technology, but the same you would have in a remote location, or maybe you cannot bring a specialist for a specific intervention, but you would have the people on the ground connected to this mixed reality and smart glasses, HoloLenses capability to the experts that would be on a central location, and bringing analysis of the images of the equipment back to those rail trucks condition examples, to the information from the ERP system, and to a conference call connecting with the experts so you can remediate and take the needed action. Lastly, sustainability, extremely important. And shift to green, definitely, that's the pathway forward, and that might mean electric, but that might also mean hydrogen fuel. But there's a lot that can be done today through making better use of data and collaborating across the ecosystem. Understanding the impact of driver behaviors on fuel consumption, it's one such example. Understanding and what the seafloor looks like and how much you need to load a ship in order to preserve the integrity and safety. It's another example in that direction. And because I've highlighted the importance of artificial intelligence, I want to also comment on the responsible use of artificial intelligence. Because, first of all, the data and the quality of data you put in to train AI algorithms dictates the quality and reliability of the output of that. You want to be sure that whatever calculation computations are happening in the AI tools, you understand what led to the decision and that outcome. So responsible and explainable AI is extremely important. You don't want to have a black box and not understand why the results are as such. You want to ensure the respect of human rights, because artificial intelligence, in Microsoft opinion, should not replace the human, should enhance the human. And there is this saying now that AI will not replace people, but humans that know to operate AI will replace other humans. And back to the responsible use and preserving the human rights and ensuring the use of technology for good, there are a number of mechanisms that you could put in place. We have provided our perspective on the principles around developing such and leveraging such technology, but it goes also on to training your employees and users, on having a governance across the organization, on elevating functions to the board of the organization that would oversee the quality, the respect of these principles, and we do it for ourselves within Microsoft. We cannot release technology if we don't look through all these aspects, and we have two functions, one that looks on the legal implications and the other function that looks at the technology and potential harmful use of technology. And for that reason, we are renouncing of some segments of the markets because technology to address that, like face recognition, might be used for the bad, not only for the good. So we're not that active in that space. And all these tools and learnings we've gathered from our own activity, we're making it available and we're contributing to industry forums. Wanted to thank you. I'll be here for the rest of the day, so looking forward to the conversations during the breaks and looking forward for the rest of the agenda. Thank you so much.